start to parse it. So without actually opening the full file, we open it in chunks to make sure that the file doesn't go corrupt while we're actually processing it. Sorry. And per every line that we have, we start to add it in another storage table, just for the reason that if something goes wrong in the middle of the process, so let's say line 500,000, the process fails, it stops, we can actually reprocess it because we have kept a record of what we've processed already, and we can kickstart the process again, just kick it a little bit, and it will start again from the lines that haven't been handled yet. From there on, we create a case record, so we can keep all of that data together, and then case per case in those tables, we're using multiple function apps or multiple instances of function apps to start importing those cases to the Dataverse tables that we need. It's not just one table, there's a lot of relationships there, so we're starting multiple instances to speed up that process. Even with multiple instances, this still takes a while, sometimes it's a few million records, so you can imagine. And we keep track of everything that we're doing, so we try to import it into Dataverse. We keep a log of that, so we started the import. Did it succeed, yes or no? Did it fail again? So that if anything goes wrong in the middle of the process, if for some reason Azure would stop, someone pulls a plug in the data center, I hope it doesn't work like that, but if it could stop, that we can actually start reprocessing it until we've processed the whole file and all of the errors and the success are logged. Then, in the end, we are creating a response back, so we're kind of mimicking an API. It's not the ideal solution, but this is the way that we had to work for our customer. We're creating a new kind of file that we drop again in that SFTP server, so that the process on their end knows that we've actually consumed the data, it's been imported, and we send also our error cases back for them to check manually if maybe something in the export of the data was wrong. Because you can imagine a system that can only export CSV files and no APIs, there's a lot of things going wrong with that, but at least they have some feedback from it. So this is something that is now currently running in production like this. Is it the ideal solution? No, we would have wanted to use an API, but this is what we had to come up with to actually deal with the customer's integration on their end. And if someone can build this purely in the Power Platform, I would like to see it, and also to make sure that it has processed 1 million records before the next one is there. So here you can really see there was no other alternative for us to use Azure, and if we didn't have this toolbox at our disposal, we would have never been able to end-to-end automate this case. And also with all of the retriability we have there, the traceability, the logs, the monitoring, we just don't have it right now in the Power Platform. Maybe Fabrice will give me some good news that it will come soon.
With data flows?
Data flows, maybe. It was a little bit more complicated than that, sadly. We took a look at it, but it wasn't possible. We have another case that we have is for the payment processing of bank transfers. So bank transfers, CODA files, for the people that have seen them before, is a pretty standardized format. So we created a parser for that, so that also here was a huge amount of payments, was millions of transactions that we tried to parse in Power Automate, but we just did not have the computing power to do it efficiently. So there we went back to an Azure function. So we created a generic function that actually is just picking up these files, is parsing them, and again, in the same kind of reasoning, debatching them, and processing, parsing them, making sure that each payment is accounted for, but also additional logic to make sure, like, if you pay something, it's either the exact amount, or it's too little or too much, and that will depend in the end of the rest of the process, whether you're still owed money back, whether your account has been settled, or whether you still have to pay more. So that's all kind of things that we have to take into account. So it's not just we process this, oh yeah, we have the money, it's done. If you pay a government too much money, they have to give it back legally. So all of that logic as well is integrated into that function, where we have basically a lot of subroutines that are checking, okay, so what is your outstanding debt? How much did you pay right now? Is this too much, too little? and depending on the flow that you're following, we have to trigger another action in the case. The easiest case, of course, is you paid exactly what you're owed, the government is happy, the case is settled. You can see then in the Power App, payment has been processed. If you pay too much, then we also have to start the process to pay you back. We have to create a new Coda file to pay you back the amount of money that you're owed. That has to go through the right person. It's not in the function, but that's the process behind it. And if you pay too little, we actually have to start sending you reminders that you still have this much of outstanding debt. It's a quite complicated process in the end, but also this is something where we just needed a lot more complex computing power that we could only find in Azure. We could not find it in the Power Platform, even though in that moment we tried to look at it because we wanted to keep it as much power as possible, but we just, it was just not able at that moment. So these were a couple of use cases that we've implemented. All of these are actually running in production as we speak. Hopefully that gave you some food for thought. I don't know if you have any questions on that or remarks.
Was it scheduled or triggered?
The Coda files were scheduled when that was also on SFTP server. So based on whether a new Coda file was dropped on the SFTP, this whole process was actually triggered. Government loves SFTP servers, by the way.
Have you had a chance to look at Azure Data Factory and Databricks?
We did take a look at it, but it was a little bit... yes, I didn't want to say that now, but yes, it was very expensive for this use case. If we would have more bigger data to process, definitely that would have been the way to go.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What is the average time to set up these kind of complex structures? Or these kind of structures?
It depends a little bit. First of all, you need to have a good analysis. That really brings down the time, because if you have to do this on the fly and have to bring in more edge cases, I don't know at the top of my head. If someone from my team can give an estimate.
Well, it depends. In this use case, we actually didn't have a great analysis because that was at the customer side, and well, we didn't really were allowed to talk to the business and stuff. But we created it, and I think it was about the intake was, let's say, 1 month and a half, something like that. Mainly because the Azure function itself was in pro code, so we need to code that, and that of course takes some time. But the logic apps go quite fast, mainly because it's like more automated. So that's the low code bit, so that goes really fast actually, but it's just the Azure functions that take some time.
Anyone else? Okay, I hope it was some interesting food for thought.
Our second speaker this evening. Our second speaker for this evening, Fabrice. You can go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, thank you all for having me. It's the first time I'm here with Power Addict. I've heard a lot of good things about this group, and for years I've been looking forward to come and meet you. I see some faces that I know in the room. So let me first talk about myself, my past, and what I've been doing before moving to the Power Addict world. Thank you to our sponsors, those who make these kind of things available. I really appreciate what you're doing for for Power Apps in Belgium. My name is Fabrice Kwetchet. I'm a French citizen living in Belgium for years already. It's the best country in the world. That's why I'm here. I've been working with Dynamics for almost 15 years. So I've been working with Dynamics CRM version 3. I started in 2008 after starting a PhD in the States. But that wasn't for me. It was on image transformation. So I decided to quit and work as an engineer, IT engineer, developer, consultant, and then I moved to the solution architect role that fits best with my way of being, my expectation. I'm also an IT entrepreneur. I founded CRM Assets when I tried to bring CRM and blockchain in the same box. And during my free slots, I'm also training. So I like sharing, and I like learning also. I learn a lot. I think when you stop learning, you start dying. So last year I've been recognized by Microsoft as a fast-track solution architect. So I wasn't expecting that, but I'm very proud that Microsoft recognized me as a solution architect, because I've been looking forward to that role for years, not thinking that it would fit with me, that I thought it was too high for me, and I'm really proud of that, and the fact that I learned things around not only Dynamics, but all of the things that you can use to make this solution possible, as you did for all of those customers. You're not just focusing in Power Platform. Sometimes you need to get around and find the tools that can make your solution work. So I'm also very enthusiastic about that. So now I'm working also for Broadware, so for helping them with their customer here in Belgium and around the world to bring the best kind of solution we can for Dynamics 365 customer engagement. Today I want to talk to you about the booking, the scheduling. Why? Because we have found that there are many use cases out there, many companies in case management, but also in a situation like you want to book, for example, a restaurant, and you call a contact center, and these people need to know what are the free slots for rooms, but also for people, for resources. So Microsoft has a good solution. You maybe know field service in Dynamics 365, but this is in one tenant. So basically, these things are possible, but for people in the same company. And more you are working with external partners. External partners who do not want just to get inside your tenant, have a license, who have their own credential. You will say, for example, there is guest account that you can bring in, but that's not always possible. So I was thinking about having every companies working in their own tenant, but sharing some free busy, slots in one's agenda, and make it possible, for example, a personal assistant to book a medical appointment for doctors in a certain hospital. So these are the kind of scenario that can be met also in a Power Platform. So I wanted to share that because I've seen a couple of months ago that Microsoft brought a new feature, which is in preview now, in field service, to allow the booking based on the free and busy slot in Outlook. Because in past, it was all in Dynamics 365. So your field service agents who are not synchronizing their Outlook agenda with Dynamics 365 may sometimes not be available, and your operators still book them. So I think you all know some scenarios where you need that kind of stuff. So in the demo I wanted to share with you, I will take a small example. So basically, you have a contact center which is working with many hospitals and doctors, and you want to find free time slots in your partner's agenda and book medical appointment quite easily. So the contact center, let's say, are using Dynamics 365 or just Office 365 and Teams. I know that this can also be done in Teams. And you want to create an app that will first fetch all the free slots of the selected doctor and give the ability to the contact center operator to book an appointment. So we can go even further. We can say, okay, we make these appointments synchronize with the contact center Dynamics 365 in order to have the updates and the deletes synchronized back to contact center database. So the technical solution that I see for this use case, and we have implemented it on one customer site, it is now in production, is to have a Canvas app that you connect to an Azure function. So you extend the Canvas app because it's not possible to do it with the out-of-the-box connector today. And you use a graph API function that fetch all the free slots for the appointment. Just for information, for those who are not familiar with graph API, it's a kind of unified API that Microsoft now provides to make all kind of operation in Microsoft Word. So it's very, very useful. You find everything in it. But it is sometimes limited because Microsoft is still moving some function from the old API, I would say Exchange API, Office API in that platform. So we will use Azure function. Sorry for the no coder, but here I wasn't able to find a way around to first get those calls impersonated, because it is also important when you want to get into a partner tenant to fetch some agendas, to have some what we call access to their mailboxes. Basically, you need to have a consent, permission to read the free and busy slots. So you're not allowed to see the content of the agendas, neither the content of the emails. So, but you can see what we call the free busy slots. Even in your Outlook, you can share those with your colleagues. Have in this architecture, your Power Canvas app here, that's basically called an Azure function, and that Azure function will have access to the mailbox, calendar, with the read and write permission to not only read the free time slots, but also to create the meetings. I mean, to send the invite, because it's not creating. You send the invite, and the doctor can accept or refuse. And thanks to the app registration, so it's kind of service account that we create on Azure Active Directory, to which we gave some permissions, basically calendar, read, and write. We will be able to impersonate that call and to make what we want to do here in these mailboxes. And then you have a synchronization that will be done. This is the Outlook synchronization. So basically, the Outlook application from the laptop of the doctor is pulling all the meetings and emails that are created on Office 365 Exchange to the doctor phone or whatever, laptop. So in this architecture, you see, you have only those few components, but which can make a lot of differences. And based on that, you can simplify the provisioning with many partners. Imagine that you have another partners. You just need to have in your Azure function the app registration ID and secret for the new tenant. You need also to have the consentment of those tenants to be able to make the same kind of calls and register your invitation. So let's start. Basically, these are the kind of architecture we are called to do in many scenarios. I mean, as a fast track architect, Microsoft will rely sometimes on us to fit those gaps. So, okay, we have a powerful technology, a powerful solution, but we don't know how to make this kind of requirement. So we come out with those kind of solution. I will present. I created an environment that I will share with you. Okay. Without a chair, difficult. Can I? So let's start. So this is, I created the tenant, so for this demo. So So we have Alex, which is one doctor that we are going to work with. And here, this is the contact center database. So basically, they have different contacts here, and we want to be able to send the invitation to those doctors. So let me drop this. Okay, so this is an admin of that tenant. First, we will have to create the app registration, as I present you in that architecture diagram. So an app registration is kind of service account. It's simply that you create here, and to which you allow some access. So you find them in API permission. So basically, in the partner tenant, you need to provide some read and write access to the calendars, and those are done here and need some consentment of the global admin. So with this consentment, you can even go further and restrict it to a set of a group of users. Imagine that you don't want this kind of external application to have access to the CEO agenda. You can restrict that to a group of users. So, thanks to that, we are going to use two methods in Graph Explorer. Are you familiar with this console? Do you know that? Are you familiar with that? No? Yeah? Okay. So actually it's very useful. So it's provided by Microsoft. And I think that if you haven't played with it yet, it is free, totally free, and you can use it in any environment. But you can see here a lot of methods that you can find here. So basically, you can, for instance, say, okay, get me my profile and run the query, and you have your profile. My photo, if there are photos, it brings everything. So the method that we want are find meeting times. So you have it here, you have the content, the post method. Normally it should also provide this, but argument. So the attendee should be an email address, so I think I need to provide one email address here. Let me get. Okay. So, no, I want was not in the right thing. Is this one? Okay, so this is the code that I want to pass in my Azure function and to impersonate, because it's quite straightforward, it's simple, but you cannot do it for now in Power Apps. There is a method, if you use Power Automate, that called the same graph function, but that method works from reading your tenant. So you cannot call it else, and you cannot impersonate it also. So if you want to do it for everyone, it will not be possible. So we will use this call. You see, that's a response that we have. I won't get into those details, but as you see, you have the confidence, you have the availability, and you have the time. So the start date and the end date, which are here. We'll play with that in the Power Apps. So we have seen this, the app registration, the graph. Now let's go into the code, and you will see how simple it is to implement this in Azure function. So this is my Azure function that basically will do two things. The first is to get the partner free slots.
Sorry, is it possible that you can zoom in?
Yeah.
Because I think for the people in the back.
Okay, for the people in the back.
Yeah.